Matt Nagy, the head coach, as expected, is out. Ryan Pace, the GM, as expected, is out. There was talk of a new title for him. No, he's gone. And that makes sense. Just rip the Band-Aid off and move on. The real question is, will Phillips be gone? Because he's the guy that keeps hiring these people. At some point, ownership has to say, hey, Ted, you got some accountability too. I mean, you hired Phil Emery. You hired Mark Trestman. I mean, Mark Trestman, really? You really? At some point, you got to say, the guy who's making these decisions that continuously fail to result in consistent, it doesn't have to be excellence, just something above average. At some point, that guy's got to go too. So, will the McCaskies, will Virginia go all the way up and say, Ted, we love you, you've been here forever, but we're going to reassign you, but somebody else is going to be in charge of the football operations? That's the real question for the Bears.
Well, right. And then when you have that, then who are you going to pick? And how are they going to then say, all right, we're going to build around Justin Fields? I think Justin Fields is one of the most attractive elements to any GM and coaching job that's available right now. I mean, you can maybe say the same thing about Trevor Lawrence, but the GM job is not available, at least as we speak right now, about the Jaguars, right? So you have somebody who has shown an ability to play the quarterback position at a high level in flashes. How are you going to be able to maximize his skill set? How are you going to be able to make sure you construct an offensive line, a pass protection unit, really in general, that's going to be able to make sure he stays upright? So then you're not facing a situation where he's getting the hell beat out of him every single week. I think that those are the biggest questions that they're going to have to solve. And, you know, if you're Ted Phillips, you have to be able to present a list of candidates to the McCaskies that will make them say, all right, I feel good about this. All right. And you're going to have to get guys into these interviews that make them say, all right, I feel good about this. And I feel good about building around Justin Fields, because that's going to be the key to all of this. How do you maximize Justin Fields' skill set so that you become one of these consistent competitors that we're starting to see, you know, around the league that are built around young QBs?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that Nagy and Pace are out 1 year after giving up next year's first-round pick to trade up and get Justin Fields, that just shows you how dysfunctional the Bears currently are. They never should have authorized that move. You don't say, okay, you know what, go ahead and mortgage our future while we're not sure whether or not we want you guys to be the ones making the payments. Like you got to be all in.
But they've done it before, Mike. They did it before. They did it with John Fox.
Dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things.
Right.
And they learn nothing from it.
Right.
But I thought that there was a glimmer of hope here because they'd done it before, that they knew this time around, if we are going to make this move to go up and get a quarterback, we're not going to ruin that quarterback by bringing in a coach who may not want him. This is the challenge. There will be coaches out there that believe in Justin Fields. There will be coaches out there who don't believe in Justin Fields. One of those coaches may say just enough during the interview process to convince the powers that be that they believe in Fields when that coach doesn't. And so, hey, once I get the 5-year fully guaranteed contract, I'll come in, I'll undermine Justin Fields, I'll explain to Ted Phillips or whoever where the flaws are, and after a year or two, we'll move on to somebody else. See, with the financial consequences of using a high pick on a quarterback, nothing what they used to be before the 2011 CBA. Really, but Justin Fields, we give him another year or two, and if we don't really like him, if the new coach doesn't really like him, if the new coach never was on board, you move on to somebody else. That's the way football works nowadays. There's a limited shelf life, and that's just unfortunate that they didn't make the commitment when they made the trade. They never should have allowed the trade to be made if Nagy and Pace were dangling by a thread, and apparently they were. So we'll see if Ted Phillips ends up losing any influence, his job, his title, whatever. But, you know, there'd been talk about Trace Armstrong potentially being recruited by the Bears to be the VP of football operations. He denied it at the time, but, you know, I'm not going to be the Alabama coach either. So we'll see how it all plays out. But with Pace and Nagy gone, Myles, they need to really think about something, you know, the root cause. Like with the Giants, we say the root cause is ownership. It's the mayors. They're the ones making these decisions. In Chicago, it's Ted Phillips making these decisions. They need to ask themselves whether or not they need somebody else to be making those decisions.
Right, exactly. And so that's where you have organizations kind of see shifts, right? Where when you start getting rid of the people who are making the ultimate decisions. I think, you think about Detroit last year and how they kind of got everybody out, and then they start doing things new with Martha Firestone Ford, right? Because the way that everything was happening there, and she's going to take a step back from the organization. Now you have the daughter coming in, and she's making more of the decisions. So when you have things like this, and especially if you're talking about a division like the NFC North, where you have one quarterback who's been so dominant, that kind of makes you think about things a little bit differently. And now we have 2 coach openings in the NFC North, and both of them have their attractive and unattractive elements. So now it's kind of like, all right, well, how are we going to make sure we're putting a team together that can compete not just in the division, but also within the conference as a whole? But in order to do something, you've got to be able to make sure that you're beating Aaron Rodgers, and if Aaron Rodgers is still there, but generally the Green Bay Packers, because the Packers under Matt LaFleur have had so much success, especially over these last 3 years, that's really what the team that you've got to aim for in order to make sure you're competitive in that division.
Helps to have Aaron Rodgers, too. Now, LaFleur has done a great job, but it helps to have a great quarterback, and that's going to be
certainly
part of the problem. In Chicago, can they make him a great quarterback? In Minnesota, can they find a great quarterback? But, yeah, now the Packers are the dominant team. And as I said, why would Aaron Rodgers want to leave? I mean, look, you've got a guy in Detroit who's got 1 year on the job. You've got the other half of the division looking for new coaches. The Packers will be the favorite to win the NFC North again easily in 2022.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.